Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for clicking on the video. I just wanted to give a short little intro about what this video is going to be because it's going to be a little bit different. Me and Rowan McDonnell have sort of teamed up a little bit. Rowan is starting his own company called the Excel Throwing Academy. If you haven't heard of it, you should definitely go look it up. And I've sort of teamed up with him, and we pretty much break down individuals' throws, and we give them one-on-one meetings on how to improve their throws, give them tips and training techniques to use so they get to go take it out in the field. So that's what me and him are sort of doing. And I'll link all of his stuff below in the description. But for this video, we sort of have a new concept where I'm going to show a couple throws that I make in game that I've been asked about, and I'm sort of going to go break down the decision making that went into making that throw, why I threw the throw that I did, sort of stuff like that. And then Rowan's going to come in on the back end and sort of give a more technical description of how to throw that throw mechanically, and sort of techniques and tips and stuff like that on how you can get better at that throw. So at the end of the video, Rowan will come on, sort of give you a step-by-step demonstration. So yeah, that's sort of what this video is about. I hope you all like it. If you kind of like this style of video, let us know, and we can definitely crank out some more of them. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, so I've had a few people now reach out sort of asking advice for how to throw the inside out leading huck, like these throws right here. So I thought I would just go ahead and try to break down exactly what I was seeing for both of these throws right here. For this first flick throw, the first thing I want to note is the depth and timing of my cutter right here. Ryan Osgard does a really good job of anticipating first where I'm going to catch the disc, and then putting himself in a position where his defender has to respect all three spaces on the field right here. He has to respect this under space, this horizontal space, and then eventually, obviously, the deep space where the throw is going to be thrown. The other thing that Ryan does really well is he allows me enough time to turn and face him before making his move. And by waiting this extra split second, it gives me time to assess and be aware of the space that's available to attack. Oftentimes, cutters will begin their deep cuts too early, and that can lead to sort of rushed and inaccurate throws. And by waiting for that extra split second for that eye contact right there, it can make a really huge difference with the accuracy of a throw. This angle does a really good job of showing exactly the timing that Ryan uses to break down his cut. And you can see as soon as I square up with him is when he decides to make his move deep. Now, to break down the decision making and sort of the reason why I threw the throw that I did, it all sort of has to do with my positioning on the field and what windows are open to hit my receiver in. So because I caught this disc close to the sideline, this backhand window is much smaller to hit and a much harder window to hit than this flick window. Not only does throwing a flick give me a bigger window and field space to throw into, but I also don't really have to worry about throwing it out the sideline or out of bounds and trying to bend it back in. I can throw that flick on a nice inside out angle and always trust that it's going to sit there and it's never going to bend out of bounds or even really test the out of bounds limits. Whereas if I were to throw that backhand around, there's a good chance that it starts out of bounds and never really bends back in. Because my mark is sitting on my left shoulder and taking away that backhand look, he leaves a small window for that inside out throw to be thrown. And once again, I'm looking at this big window of field to throw into and sort of sit a throw out into space for my receiver to run onto. Because all of the help defense is on the left side of the screen right here, I want to make sure that I start this disc out as far into this open space as I can so that I don't have to worry about any help coming over the top. So as I pivot out for this throw, I'm gonna try to get as wide as I can to comfortably throw this throw into the appropriate space and to start it out nice and flat to the appropriate space. Again, for my receiver to have the best chance at catching it and no one else. My main goal for this throw shape is for it to never have any outside in edge on it. At its very most, I want it to just sit flat again so my receiver can run onto it. As it loses speed with these flat throws, it'll naturally start to come back in that inside out formation. The last thing I wanted to note about this throw is the height in which I throw it. So as I release this disc, I'm releasing it at around my knee height, and my goal for this throw is for it to never reach a height in which my receiver can't catch it at any point. So this height is usually at around 10 feet high, give or take, but really the point of the height of the throw is so that my receiver can run onto it at all times and be able to catch it at that height. What oftentimes happens is people will throw this space throw a little too high, which gives the defense time to get under and make a play. By keeping this disc at a catchable height the whole time, it gives my receiver the advantage throughout the entire path of the disc. That inside out angle and throw shape should give the disc enough time to hang and let your receiver catch up to it at any point. This throw on the backhand side is very similar to the flick huck in the last clip I showed. Here, John waits for me to face upfield before committing to the cut, and the same kind of space is available to throw into. I start the throw on a slight inside out angle that never gets past flat, and it remains at a catchable height throughout its entire flight. It's important to remember that the more spin you generate with these throws, the longer the disc will be able to float. So for these touch away passes, it's important to remember that speed isn't necessarily what you're looking for. It's disc rotation, which comes from your wrist snap. The one thing I wanted to point out with this clip is the ground that I'm able to cover with my pivot to get around my mark. The thing that I want you to notice is my upper body lean. My torso will go from perpendicular to the ground to nearly parallel with the ground. I often see weaker throwers struggle to get this torso lean when they're pivoting, which can really limit your release point. By adding that lean, you're able to get your arms past your knee as well as extend past your mark. A great way to practice these throws is to create an obstacle that you must pivot to throw around and really test your limits and practice that lean while still maintaining some inside out edge on your throws.
Hey, what's up? Rowan here for the Excel Ultimate Throwing Academy, and today we're going to focus on throwing some IO hucks that just sit out to space and kind of float in front of your receiver. These are really important for a couple of reasons. One, it's the best flight shape when we go against the wind. Two, it's a really nice way to put the disc in front of a player. And three, it complements a nice outside in huck to space. So again, if you put this into the game, it's going to be very important. Now, a couple of differences for this throw is one, since we're going to try to keep it inside out and flat the whole way, we do want to bring the release down a little bit. That's just going to help, start the disc low, IO and flat, and never get too high. The second thing we want to do is we want to focus on the backswing and the release, and we're not going to worry too much about a big follow through. The reason we want to do that is we want to generate a lot of spin on this throw, so it just spins and kind of just, a clean, smooth release takes it. If we overthrow these low IOs to space, a lot of times when we try to overthrow a disc, we get a little off-axis torque or the disc starts to flip over. So on these, even though I'm going against a little wind here, I can just put a nice little shot, and that's ideally the perfect flight shape. And again, that's only 30% power, haven't even warmed up. And if you notice, a couple of things about that one is it was on this yellow line the whole time. These IO flick hucks to space, they don't have a lot of left to right or right to left movement. So low release, extra spin, and it's all about the clean release. If there's any wobble, then you lose a lot of distance. We have the theory for kind of that huck shape. Let's talk about the two best ways to practice. One is you can go out, put two cones, I have a perfect line here, and just throw this shape as kind of an under, not just hucking it. But what we're gonna start to do is just practice, again, getting a lot in the backswing, low release, and just kind of spinning it down this yellow line. We're not hucking yet, but we're just gonna throw a few just to see if we can kind of get the flight shape, 30% of it. So a couple of those are pretty good. Those all would work in a game. You saw them just kind of sit at the end. I do have a little upwind that helps. But again, get comfortable, get low, and just start throwing the huck as an under. Once you have that shape, some comfort with that, you get a little float at the end. Now it's time to go to step 2, where we're gonna add some distance and talk about controlling the final edge. All right, now I've added a second disc. It's probably about 25 yards away. You can start at 25 and build up. You can even go 40, 45 max distance. But what we're doing now is we're throwing that huck shape, the IO huck, but we're working on the end of the flight, which is very important when you huck. So the 3 end of flight shapes, one is when it crosses that white disc out there, if you can see it. I want it to go a little bit left, then I want to go straight, then I want it to fall a little bit right. And I'm intentionally throwing each one to do that. There might be mistakes, but that's my goal. And that's going to help me control these fine edges. So the first one, I'm going to try to get down the line, but going left right at the end. And there it is. You'll see it fade left, pretty much right over the disc. Yep, that was what I was looking for. Now I'm going to try to get it going straight right over the disc. Pulled that one a little bit left. And now I'm going to try to get it over the disc and fading off to the right. Cool. So again, on that set, I got about 2 out of 3 I'm happy with. And what we're doing now is we're trying to find the comfort and the muscle memory of, when we change these little edges, that's what's happening at the end. Once you're comfortable with the end of the flight shapes, you'll be able to make adjustments based on wind, speed of your receiver, where you want to throw it. And ideally on these, you want to be mostly straight or slight right. You don't want anything going too far right or too far left. That would be pretty ideal right there.